change the way we breathe.
Cases where I conducted a few research in some industries which is more serious, more kind of hazardous in terms of air pollution, like some industries who are doing the mixing for cement or crushing or the quarry activities. So it is quite, it's shocking when you see the practice and all the mechanisms in the industry. It's producing a lot of particulates, which is in some cases, it reach up to 50 times more than the allowable limit by WHO. And the simple protection, it's not there. Even the employees, they are not wearing masks to protect themselves in that hazardous industry. So again, it's about the awareness, it's about the conscious and the responsibility of the companies towards their employees. And I think a more responsible company will definitely protect the employees, because if you are talking about kind of a well-established communities, countries, they might fear even of the legal aspects when, like, one of the employees kind of go to the court if he's been damaged because of that profession, that might bring troubles to the company. So it's like a mix of reasons, as Jiha mentioned, that might motivate the companies to control the pollution at the kind of a small scale, the indoor environment. But on the other scales, it might be more complicated to do that.
So if I understand it well, we do have some kind of enforcement at corporate level, but we don't have the same for at country level, which is quite, disputable. Do we mean that government oblige organizations but do not oblige themselves to monitor the general health of citizens? And if so, what are I frequently look for experts in specific domains, and of course I searched for experts in the air quality domain through LinkedIn as usual, and I found hundreds of people in the space, and I'm wondering what do they do? Where is the need for air quality experts if we have such a fluid and liquid context where nothing is really enforceable? Are policymakers working on solutions? Is there a need for skills there? Is there a need on the technical side of building tools, or is there a need of engineers applying certain tools in certain contexts, or data expert analysis and the people able to translate data into action? Where is the need in terms of skills?
I think it's like multiple factors again. So technology-wise, I think the technology is there. The expertise is there. Maybe we can debate, like in some contexts, in some countries, we have more or we have less. But I think, it's kind of a logical thing. When you are talking about emissions, so the basic logic says that it is affecting people. It is damaging the environment, right? And in many countries, even in the most complicated scenarios, like here in Palestine, there are policies, there are regulations. But in most of the cases, there is a failure of implementation and failure of, kind of enforcement. And I'm not sure, I'm not pessimistic, but this is what I experience. I think there is an issue of governance. The policymakers always fail to enforce these policies and regulations. And it is quite funny. I was in one of the workshops last week, and I surprised that one of the he is supposed to be a decision maker, and then when we talk about the need to kind of strengthen the enforcement and kind to add more elements to protect the public from the emissions coming from the crushers industry. So one of the decision makers says, I think this is will be tough for the industries to do it. So I was shocked, because the policymakers supposed to protect the public, not to be in the favor of the industry, whether they are capable or not, whether will be costly for them or not. Because if you are caring about the public, you are supposed to create more measures which will make sure that the environment will be safe. And from all these numbers that I presented, and I have a lot of those numbers, I am very sure the industries won't lose because they implement a protective measure for the public. Because once you produce, you have profits, then it's your responsibility to protect and to eliminate all the damages, all the threats from the industry which is being released to the atmosphere and to the which affect negatively the public. And like I mean, no one need to explain to the industry that dumping waste in rivers, it's prohibited. It is damaging. I mean, this is a very common sense. Even if you explain that to a kid, they have to realize it,
Sure. Guys, we do have another 10 minutes max. I would like to have from both of you 2 use cases, successful implementations that have given a result. Implementations that in the outdoor and the indoor, because you have been operating in 2 different spaces, you will certainly have some hopefully have some successful use case to tell to others. I'd like to leave our listener with a positive message that there is a space for working on air quality, and there is an improvement that can be delivered. What is your use case, Aayush? You want to start?
Sure, Laura, sure. So I'm an indoor air quality expert. That's why I talk about indoor air quality, because we're spending 90% of our time indoors. So it makes sense to also very closely think about the air we are breathing. That's why it's very important that all of us understand how big a challenge this is. I would like to quickly share one screen. This will help everyone understand the kind of air we breathe in cities almost every day. This is the air quality in a cafe in Bangalore. This is in a hotel in Delhi, and this is again at a Burger King place in Bangalore in India. So you can see the number of, I've just computed this based on and divided them by the average number of cigarette smoking it could equate to. This was done by basically based on an algorithm which was shared online. And I really liked it because this is something which resonates with people. People now really understand that smoking cigarettes is harmful. So if I'm able to tell them that there is 200 PM 2.5, people don't really understand that well. But if I tell them that, the air quality is so bad that even if you don't smoke a cigarette, you're inhaling almost 10 or 12 cigarettes a day just by breathing. So that's what, really helped me explain to a lot of people that this is a problem. And as you can also see here, that the average outdoor air quality is 171, but the data here shows that the indoor air quality was 188. Sometimes indoor air quality can be much, much worse than outside. That's why it's important that we look at indoor air quality. And this is happening throughout the world in everyone's places, everyone's homes, everyone's offices. And this is going to get much worse. So what I think is, even if at a macro level, say, for example, if governments are able to solve one problem, say, for example, if they're able to reduce industrial emissions in the next 10 years by a certain percentage, if they're able to replicate that success with transport or with agricultural practices, it's still going to take substantial amount of time. Till then, what do you and I do? What do we do as individuals? It is our right. Clean air is a fundamental right. We should ask our employers, we should ask the schools of our children to ensure that indoor air quality is being monitored. And if the air quality is bad, corrective actions are taken. There are more than enough suppliers of purification systems throughout the world. Most of them work fairly well. So I think this is very, very important that we look at it and genuinely go ahead and ask the indoor space managers, what are you doing about it? So talking about the success story, so we are at the moment managing 5 million square feet in India, and we have never ever not charged a client because we've not been able to maintain air quality there. So that's a success story for us. Over the last 2.5 years, around 5 million square feet of indoor space we are managing, and we are maintaining air quality across all those locations in the safe level.
Thank you very much. Dr. Wesam, do you want to give us your piece of hope?
Yeah, so I'll be sharing here one of the success stories. So in 2015, I did a fellowship at, on sustainable cities. So my case was I conducted a research which is more on the low carbon cities. So I took the same example where I conducted my PhD research. So I did monitoring for the air quality at the same locations. So I have data for 2010 and 2015. Then I compared the data. So I found there is a lot of drop in the levels of pollutants. So here you can see in the graphs, this is the levels of carbon monoxide, and this was in Malaysia in one of the states called the Penang state. So this is the graphs from 2010 and 2015. I found there is a drop, and this is for multiple kind of the carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and also for volatile organic compounds, and this is an urban area. So I wanted to investigate what is the reason for these, emissions to drop. So I went and I interviewed the decision makers, some of the policy makers at the state government, and they answered that, during the 5 years, they upgraded the infrastructure, the transport infrastructure in the city. They renew and they bought new passes for the public transport in the city. So they get rid of all buses, right? So that reduced the emissions. They kind of replan the transport in the city. So most of the roads in the city become kind of one way, which reduced the amount of traffic and also amount of emissions. And also they kind of establish and they construct routes for for cycling and for walking, and they provide shuttle buses for the employees from one of the ferries to the industry zone, to kind of motivate the people to utilize the public transport, the free shuttle bus, rather than using their private cars. So this is kind of a success story where the city managed to reduce the emissions in that urban area, and that is over 5 years. And I think this is a good example where people can do it. I mean, it's not, if they have the will and if they have the resources, they can do it. And definitely, if we look at the health status and the health indicators, that will definitely show a drop in the number of people admitted in hospital for kind of respiratory disease or even cardiac disease. So this is kind of a successful story from Malaysia.
Thank you very much. We have a couple of questions to be answered in the chat. Is it possible to remove air pollution by releasing certain gases or chemical elements that can bind to pollutants and give clean air in return? Is anyone willing to answer. Is it possible to remove air pollution by releasing certain gases?
So a lot of times, ozone has been used to reduce pathogen or airborne pathogens in the air. But ozone is a lung irritant. It can create issues, breathing issues in people. That's why it has to be used in a very, very, very safe and safe environment. It can't be used without taking enough precautions. There are other ways of removing pollutants from the air by simple filtration. That's the most simple way. There are for industrial application, you have something called electrostatic precipitation. That's also called as ESP. That can reduce particulate matter, which is filterless technology. So it's on a long term a little affordable for industrial applications. And it's reducing very, very massive amounts of PM 2.5. Like on the chimneys, you can have a single system that can literally reduce the PM 2.5 levels of particulate matter by around 90%. But that will also increase some little bit of ozone in the environment because this is a basic thing that happens in this technology, unfortunately. So yes, in my knowledge, there are ways of clubbing different elements together. That's precisely what happens in an ESP. There are chemical processes as well. That is also done by different filtration. Certain places might have higher NOx or SOx pollutants. So different kind of filtration systems are there for different problems. But you literally have almost for every problem, there's some or the other solution in the world.
Thank you very much. Another last thought from you both. If you want to give a message to somebody who is willing to explore this space and become an expert, where would you suggest to start from, and what do you think is the most demanded skill and knowledge in the space to get things done? Both of you, who goes first?
Dr. Wesam, I hope you don't mind. I'll go first. So I'm not as well read in the subject as you are by any means, but I have a little more practical experience when it comes to indoor air quality management. And I feel that every local area has a different problem. Like North India has a different problem, South India has a different problem. So we really need to be cognizant of what pollution is affecting the masses, the people around you, and to figure out what can stop that. So I believe even if you start from a hyper local level, at an individual level, you can understand the problem to a deep level. However, there are bodies that are also doing certification for indoor air quality management. There are certain certification agencies that can help you with that as well. In fact, the air conditioning bodies also provide those certifications.
Thanks. Dr. Wesam, what is your point? What do you think? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I'm always promoting the idea of awareness and raising the awareness of people. And even at the university level, I'm always advocating on the necessity to start for the environmental science or sustainability course to be a university requirement for everyone to study. And that will, create a more aware generation, because when we talk about the university level, so those are the future leaders, the future graduates who will be kind of going to the market, and then they will have a different mindset to think about the business. The business need to be more sustainable, more green, and that will definitely solve the challenges in the future. So I think, I think this is the role of the educators, the policymakers, to try to promote those subjects to be kind of at the school level or at the university level to be kind of a requirement for everyone. And maybe just to mention here about the initiative that I started last year, they call the Ambassadors of Sustainability, where we are trying to advocate and build the capacity of young generation on sustainability. And definitely the big chunk on that, it's on environmental sustainability and the awareness of people about the environmental challenges, and the success story of this initiative, that in 1 year the community reached 11,000 people from 120 countries. And I think we are keeping on progressing and promoting the ideas for for those who are interested. And I think just to mention here that this initiative operated 1 year in a zero cost, and it is totally voluntary, on a voluntary basis. Thank you.
Fantastic.